Things are going even better than the Sabres could have possibly expected. From last place in the East to a win away from round 2, the Sabres entered Tuesday with confidence and momentum, and with new developments coming prior to Game 5, not only can the Sabres close out the series at home, Lindy Ruff is still pressing a lot of the right buttons, and it begs the question, can the Sabres still get even better? If the Sabres want to take care of business, Ruff might need to keep relying on some unsung heroes throughout the playoffs to send Boston shipping out of Western New York. But it could bring bedlam to Buffalo with a second-round date with either Tampa or Montreal. Hello and welcome. My name is Ryan Lee, and welcome to Sabres Digest. All things Buffalo Sabres will be here on Sabres Digest, latest news, reactions, updates, and more. So subscribe down below to follow along the journey. Thank you so much for watching, and let's get into it. So the Buffalo Sabres have this commanding 3-1 series lead over Boston through 4 games. And it's been a long series to this point. Marco Sturm kind of preempted that this is going to be a lengthy series, a physical series, and it's slowly starting to take its toll on the Sabres just a little bit. With some of the latest updates on the injury front from Lindy Ruff, he's still optimistic that a lot of these guys can still be a part of the lineup, whether it's Josh Norris, who could be available day-to-day for Game 5, despite missing the last 2 in Boston. Both Jason Zucker and Tyson Kozak left midway through Game 4, but both seem probable for Game 5. And that's going to be a huge help, especially for Zucker, who's been a real leader on all aspects, top power play guy, a real vocal leader, one of the most experienced members of this team. And we're still waiting on the status of Sam Carrick, who's still week to week and not having played since the end of March. But if anything does have to change, not because of choice, but because of circumstance, there's probably no better coach in the playoffs who has a lengthier history of manipulating the lineup to his benefit than Lindy Ruff, especially when the circumstances have dealt with it. Take a look back at the 05-06 Eastern Conference Final, where the whole D core was depleted and you were kind of going through AHL roster guys. Lindy Ruff knows how to press the buttons of some of these guys, kind of get some of these quote-unquote smaller players to play in bigger moments. And he's going to potentially have to rely on that, especially with some of the comments he made prior to Game 5, saying that this is going to be the hardest game that they're going to have to play in the short term, referring to his own team. Especially when Boston is a nothing to lose, everything to gain situation, and the backs are up against the wall. He's expecting Boston to take more risks. And this is actually kind of ironic, because you could argue going into the playoffs that the Sabres were the ones playing with house money, because no one was sure that their quote-unquote river hockey style was going to translate into the playoffs, that everything from December 9th onward was just a flash in the pan. It was unsustainable going into this latter portion of April. But we've already seen what Lindy Ruff's adjustments have done for the betterment of the Buffalo Sabres, whether if it was not putting Josh Norris in the lineup when he wasn't 100% and letting Noah Ostlund get his opportunity, or whether if it was a first couple of shaky games from Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen and inserting Alex Lyon into the fold, who actually, ironically enough, we talked about his 2023 one with the Florida Panthers. He actually started that series and got yanked for Sergei Bobrovsky, who carried the Cats the rest of the way. And weirdly enough, Lyon is in the exact same spot, because he had those first couple games from Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, didn't necessarily go well. Then Lyon goes into the fold. We even saw this in 2018 with the Capitals. Braden Holtby came in for Philip Grubauer, and it can absolutely work for the betterment, because Alex Lyon has been not only arguably, he's been the best goalie in the playoffs to this point. He leads all playoff goalies in save percentage, goals against average, expected goals against, and is even amongst the top 3 in expected goals against average and high danger save percentage. And he and Jeremy Swayman are the only 2 goalies in the entire field who have yet to let in a goal on the penalty kill. We've talked about this before, how Alex Lyon is really trying to feast on this opportunity to be a starter for an NHL playoff team, since he already did so in the AHL, since he had the net taken away from him, the chance that he had when he was in Florida. And now Lyon has a chance to not only take this net and roll with it, but could be the key cog into allowing the Sabres to keep generating the momentum. And we talk about the offense, the fluidity of the offense, the motion, the goal scoring, the river hockey nature of it. But one thing that a lot of people I think forget about the Buffalo Sabres is they're a defensive team. A lot of the key pieces and acquisitions that came, and even draft capital, came on defense. And Alex Lyon, having come in from this past offseason, has absolutely been kind of the ignition to this engine that has been the Buffalo Sabres defense. And it's kind of an old common adage that defense wins championships, which is 100% true. But not only that, but defense has been creating offense for the Sabres at this point of the playoffs. Especially when you consider that guys like Dahlin and Samuelsson haven't been as offensively productive. Even though Mattias Samuelsson got that 3-2 goal in Game 1, we haven't seen a lot from a lot of those defensemen. But two guys in particular have been jumping up, which is Bowen, Byram, Owen Power, who have been predominantly considered second-line D-men in this system because of what Dahlin and Samuelsson do. And this is actually funny enough, a mismatch for Boston because you have a top pair caliber of D-men with Byram and Power, and you're putting them on a second-line unit, which means they're getting weaker matchups. They're not getting other teams' top units like Dahlin and Samuelsson are. They're not getting keyed in on and getting attacked and targeted the same way Dahlin has. You're not seeing Byram Power taking cheap shots from guys like Nikita Zadorov, for example. But this only kind of continues the trend that Buffalo had been on, where they were amongst the top three in both goals and points scored amongst defensemen in the regular season, like the bottom line states. And for Buffalo, I really want to focus on that pairing, especially with Byram and Power, because not only had the defense been the strongest unit and the most talked about unit on the Sabres team throughout the entire year, but also they are driving this engine defensively and using it to generate momentum on the offensive side of the ice as well. This was a photo posted by the Buffalo Sabres social media page, and they were talking about all-time Sabres with a point in the first 4 career playoff games. Danny Gare, who's in the Sabres Hall of Fame, Owen Power, and Peyton Krebs. I can get to Peyton Krebs in another moment because he's been exceptional as that third wheel to Tuch and Thompson. But Owen Power has really come into his own. An assist across all 4 games in the playoffs so far. He is just finding an opportunity to just start the play in the offensive zone. And maybe he's not going to light things up. He's not going to do some crazy skill move like Dahlin will. But Owen Power has just been able to find his teammates in the right spot at the right opportunity when it is the best chance to strike. And one of the guys that's actually been able to capitalize on that is his D partner, like I mentioned, Bowen Byram. Already coming off of a high of the extra confidence and just the overall production he's had throughout the regular season, career highs in goals, assists, and points, but as a defenseman, leading this team in playoff goals. And he's the first Sabres player, not defenseman, first Sabres player since 1993 to score a goal in 3 straight games. But it's not just because Bowen Byram's just been so good this year. He has been good in the playoffs before. One thing that gets lost in the sauce with all this is that Bowen Byram is a Stanley Cup champion when he was with the Colorado Avalanche back in 2022. And he was the 3rd best offensive defenseman behind Cale Makar and Devon Toews, who were not only the 2 starting D-men for the Colorado Avalanche, but the 2 starting D-men for Team Canada in this past Winter Olympics. And when you're behind those caliber of defensemen, Bowen Byram is as good as they come. And even though he's on a bridge deal, this maybe complicates things down the line for contract talk, but Byram is a player that can absolutely bring his value into the playoffs. And he is going to get a pretty penny once that time comes. Already leading an elite defensive core that is only going to get better as the playoffs roll along. Wait until Mattias Samuelsson finally gets a couple of points. Rasmus Dahlin gets on the board a couple of times. They're a defensive team at the end of the day. That starts with Alex Lyon in the back, goes up to the D-men, and that even carries over into the forward core. And not only have the defense been generating offensive opportunities for themselves, but for everyone else on the lineup also. And if the Sabres really want to close things out in Game 5, they already have a lot of the blueprint that was established with them through Game 4. The Sabres already know how Boston wants to play this game. They want to get body on body. They want to make things messy. They want to get scrappy after the whistle, take guys to the penalty box. But in Game 4, the Sabres were having none of it. It's very clear the Sabres are taking these liberties on their own. In the press conference, it was Byram who was the one that said that the fourth game is the hardest to win. But the task is at hand. Game 5, 3-1 series lead in Buffalo. Boston want to hurt you with the bodies, but the Sabres want to hurt you on the scoreboard. And not only did allow the Sabres to set the bar where they've been at, but every time that they step on the ice, they have only elevated the bar game in and game out. Series in, series out, perhaps. Then this is not only the chance for Buffalo to feast, but for Buffalo to await whoever comes from Montreal and Tampa. And depending on how the matchup rolls and how things pan out, it might even be the edge that Buffalo needs, closing this series out early to get the advantage throughout round 2, and it might even be a launching point of what's after. But that's still to be determined, and we still have a game to play Tuesday night. That'll do it for all of us here at Sabres Digest. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to subscribe down below for all the latest news, reactions, updates, and more in all things Buffalo Sabres. And also comment down below too, because I will be reading them throughout the entire playoffs. Couldn't get to it today because of a tight turnaround, but I promise I'll do it for the next one. Thank you so much for joining us. Keep watching along, and as always, go Sabres.